Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Lenox Justifier of Innocence, created by Zeus and Demeter to save humanity. I am here as Josephine, and I'm here with Mr. Buddy. And in today's story, we are going to be taking a little bit of a break from the Lenox journey to save humanity for a patron's request. Now, I must warn you that this story might have a few triggering items. We are discussing this particular patron's personal experience. So some of the items are a little bit sensitive in nature. But just remember that all our topics are carried out in fantasy, fiction, and imagination. All of the justice is done in fantasy. I hope that you guys are enjoying everything so far and that you are having an amazing week. With that said, we're going to get started with today's programming. It had started off as a nice love story. The courtship, the compliments, flowers, and fancy dinners. She was falling so in love, or he was doing everything right. He wanted her to be completely enamored by him, to become all-consumed. Once he felt that he completely had her under his spell, he slowly began to chip away at her confidence. He was very good at it, wrapping insults inside of jokes as constructive criticism. She was an incredibly beautiful woman, a natural beauty, both inside and out, with golden glistening skin, long curly hair, big doe eyes, high cheekbones, her nose, her full lips, a toned yet hourglass physique with legs of a champion-bred racehorse. What made her even more stunning was her goofy, quirky personality, her big heart. She was always helping others, giving even when she didn't have enough for herself. She was so intelligent. Some even referred to her as a prodigy. Genius level type of intelligence. She was strong and feisty. When she loved, she gave her all. She was loyal to a fault. It had all started with those little jabs. He would point out other women and say, "You should be as thin as her. You look like a dough girl." He would remove food from her dinner plate. "You don't need to be eating that," he would say, "unless you want to keep adding to those childbearing hips." With a sinister laugh, he would say he was joking. To paint a better picture for you, she was 22 years old and a recent college graduate. He was 33 and well on his way to being fully established in his life. She had graduated with honors and was now embarking on her journey to become established in her career. She weighed 106 pounds. She had a very lean, muscular physique and only stood at 5 feet tall. A petite, tiny little thing. Yet, he would make her feel as if she was grossly overweight and large. "Your thighs are too thick," he would say. "You should straighten your hair. It looks ghetto. Why are you painting your nails with colors like that? It looks classless. True classy women only wear French manicures. You should get a better job. Try getting something in your field. Oh wait, no one will hire you. You must be terrible at it. Don't eat that. My God, do you realize what a pig you look like? Oink, oink," he would say with a sinister chuckle. "Look at her," as he pointed to a frail, thin woman eating a plate of vegetables. "That's how you should be eating," he should add. "Whatever, you're just a convenience for me anyway. I could never bring somebody like you home to my parents. They would say, "Oh, I see you're slubbing it with a señorita." Her once bright light was starting to dim. All her old insecurities from childhood are resurfacing. She felt ugly, unintelligent, classless, fat, unwanted, and worst of all, she felt unloved. She had overcome so much in her short years on this earth: the racial obstacles of the times, the bullying, growing up in poverty. She grew into a beautiful, strong, fearless, intelligent woman. She won beauty contests, writing contests, the first in her family to graduate college. She bought her first home at 18 and always put 110%, if not more, into all that she did. Yet this man, who she had fallen so deeply in love with, made her feel like she was nothing. Although in the beginning, he made her feel like she was incredible. Somehow, now, he had taken that away, and he was able to insert doubts, fears, and feelings of unworthiness and self-loathing. He ripped the floor out from beneath her and made her feel she did it to herself for being in a despicable existence of human garbage. That's how he would make her feel. Her not wanting to regress to the days of her childhood, where she felt she never belonged anywhere, always feeling left out, left behind, and mistreated. She began to work harder, to work out more. She started spending money on fancy clothes, money she didn't have and could not afford. She changed her hair. She was barely eating, and when she did eat, she would hide because she was afraid of the comments. She would go tanning, and she also wore expensive fragrances. She did what she thought he wanted, but nothing that she did was ever good enough for him. The insults started to become commonplace, and then he began to cheat on her. Her friends and co-workers began to notice a change in her spirit. She was starting to become a shell of who she was. Her confidence had left her, along with her light. They decided to intervene, telling her that he was the one who was insecure and that she could do better. She was too good for him in every way, and he put her down because he couldn't handle that fact. These words momentarily made her feel better, so she brought it to his attention. He, only being the master of gaslighting. "I only say those things to you to make you better. They are just jealous of what you and I have, and you're taking things the wrong way." For the next couple of weeks, he would go back to being the perfect gentleman, the one that she first fell in love with. And then the cycle would start all over again. She was breaking. Her essence was hanging on by a mere thread. He had made a new friend, the new guy in town, handsome, successful. All the men wanted to be as cool as him, and all the women wanted to be with him. He said, "Wow, who's that beautiful girl?" "Who, her?" he asked. "That's my girlfriend." Suddenly, she went from being a convenience to girlfriend status. He invited her to go have breakfast with him. his roommate, and his cool new friend. He wanted to show off. She did not realize this at the time. She gladly went to breakfast. At breakfast, he immediately greeted her by insulting her outfit. She felt embarrassed, self-conscious. The other two men felt awkwardness, but they all brushed it aside. They went to order their breakfast. She had ordered eggs and asked for an English muffin in place of toast. When the waitress brought the food, he noticed the English muffin on her plate. He took it from her while taking a bite out of it, and then proceeded to place it on a side plate far enough in front of her where she could not reach it. "You're not eating that," he said. "No wonder you look like a dough girl." Pudgy, as he laughed. His roommate looked down, feeling uncomfortable. She felt hot in the face, choked up, holding her tears back in shame and complete humiliation. His new friend called the waitress back over and ordered her a fresh English muffin. "Let her eat it and enjoy her breakfast," he said. Uncomfortable laughter came from him as he put his arm around her shoulder. "She knows I'm just teasing." She barely ate a bite of her food, feeling awkward, humiliated, and broken. The following week at work, the cool friend stopped by her office and asked if he could speak with her for a minute. He expressed how appalled he was in witnessing the way that he had treated her at breakfast, and proceeded to tell her that he believed she was far too good for him, and how beautiful and amazing she was, and what great shape she is in. Him being a father to a daughter, he said he wanted to kick the crap out of him and wanted nothing to do with a man like him. He said that he hoped she would see the value in herself and realize that that guy treated her poorly because she was completely out of his league. Her humiliation had faded away, and it was replaced with a little bit of confidence. Her eyes began to open. The kindness of this stranger made her realize that she deserved better. Later that same day, she called her boyfriend and she dumped him. He laughed at her and told her, "No one else will ever want you." Amongst other disgusting insults. But it wasn't going to work this time. She started to find her light again, and she realized that she would be better off alone than miserable in his company. She began to take steps towards self-improvement. She changed her hair back, painted her nails whatever color she pleased. She was looking and feeling her best, excelling at work, and rebuilding her friendships. When he seen how well she was doing and how great she looked, he complimented her and began to apologize. He proceeded to ask her out and ask her for another chance. At first, she agreed to go out with him, but later that day, after some cautioning from friends and her thoroughly thinking it through, she decided to cancel that date, and she rejected him. Oh, he did not take it well. At this point, things took a very dark turn. She started to notice he would be almost every place she went. He was calling her excessively. It went from frequent phone calls and encounters to being outright followed. One night after she got out of work, she was heading to get food with a friend, and he had followed her in his work truck. The truck made a very distinct sound, so she knew it was him behind her. Her friend was scared, but she had reassured her that he was harmless. He was only struggling with the breakup. They had pulled over so that she could speak with him. She told him that what he was doing was not healthy and to please stop. He responded by getting down on one knee and handing her an engagement ring, proposing marriage. She felt sorry for him, being the kind soul she was, but she was also angry. Oh, now you propose after treating me so poorly for so long? She denied his proposal, but he refused to take the ring back and asked her to hold on to it and to think about it. Her friend was genuinely freaked out. She said that he wasn't right in the mind and that she felt that he was escalating. Her friend was right. He began to follow her everywhere. He even showed up at her friends' homes at all hours of the night looking for her. Months had gone by, and he still continued this behavior. It got to the point where as soon as she was off work for the weekend, she would leave and go to friends' places in neighboring states so that she could be at peace for the weekend. He threatened to do things to her car and to anyone who tried to take his place. Her friends begged her to go to the police, but because he had never physically harmed her, she didn't want to ruin his life. It got to the point where she couldn't even go down the street to get a coffee without him showing up or following her. He began threatening harm to those around her and to himself. Anyone who said anything negatively to her about him, he would threaten. She wouldn't be in her car for more than 5 minutes before she would hear that distinct truck sound behind her. She couldn't breathe. She was living under constant duress. She decided to speak to an officer who was a mutual friend of theirs off the record. He told her that he was going to try to handle it. After that, things were quiet for a few weeks. She thought she was in the clear and that he was able to get through to him. She had met a guy who was very kind and interested in her, but for now she just wanted to be friends and take it very slow. He was okay with that. One night, the new guy, her sister who had just moved in with her, and their cat and their dog were all watching movies, snacking on popcorn. They had fallen asleep sometime during the movie, and yet something woke her. She had a bad feeling. Where she lived, the front door lock was breaking, and it was extremely difficult to lock. She got up to check it when she seen his truck pull up in front of the house. She hit the floor and began to crawl like a military soldier in enemy territory. She managed to get to the door, and on the floor, with her back to the door, she somehow managed to lock it just as he was turning the knob. He then went around the driveway, and she ran to wake her sister, explaining the situation. Her sister said, "I have had enough of this." She took her dog, being a fluffy, tiny little thing. It was certainly not for protection, but he was very loud and would alert if there were trouble. When she came back inside, her eyes were very wide and the color had been drained from her face. She said, "The man is unhinged and I'm fearing for your life." He was not intoxicated by any means, but his eyes were soulless, filled with evil. He told her that he just wanted to talk to me. She said, "Go out there and talk to him, and I will stand behind the door. And if he tries anything, I will lunge out at him." Our friend, who was sleeping in the living room, slept through the entire scene. They decided to let him keep sleeping so that the situation wouldn't escalate, and she went out to talk to him. She went to the porch to speak with him. She remained calm but firm. She told him that though she had sympathy for what he was going through, if he didn't stop, she was going to get a restraining order. Enough was enough. No more. His face went blank, his green eyes now black, and in the most cold, chilling way possible, with zero emotion, he told her that he was going to burn her house down, with her in it, her cat, her sister, and the dog, while he watched them burn. Unable to escape, while he would make it look like an accident, he said, "I did it before." He left her house, leaving her terrified and not knowing what to do. In the following weeks, the terror continued. It not only continued, but it got worse. He broke in the middle of the night, forcing relations on her. He then kidnapped her cat, threatening to snap her neck if she told anyone or if she called the police. He was everywhere, and she was unable to escape him. She was numb, not knowing what to do. And then he made a mistake. He called her father in the middle of the night and told him that she would never leave him and that he better make sure of it. That was the wrong move. Her father was a war hero, and he was not going to take this threat lightly, nor was he going to allow anyone to hurt his daughter. He went to the store to purchase some ammo. While he was there, he vented to the clerk as to what was happening. Lucky for him, I, Josephine, was there purchasing tranquilizer darts. When I heard him tell the story, I was immediately infuriated. I told him not to do anything. I knew exactly who was going to handle this. I arranged a meeting with his daughter to get the full details of the situation. That night was going to be the last night in his reign of terror over her. He would never cause her or any other woman pain again. As Lenox broke into the house, taking the cat back, and then she left him a note, taunting him. She was setting him up. That night, Lenox let him see her through the window. As he stalked with binoculars down the street, she was standing there with the kitty in her arms. Oh, he was so enraged. His truck bed was full of gasoline, locks, bolts, rope, rags, chloroform, amongst other tools that he needed to execute his plan. He was going to wait until she fell asleep. He planned on forcing himself in there, snapping the kitty's neck, forcing relationships on her, then drugging her, her sister, and poisoning the dog. All that, and then he would finish with lighting the place on fire. But what he didn't know is that it was Lenox that was waiting for him. When he saw his opportunity, he went in. Lenox had placed decoys around the inside of the house. The lady, her sister, the dog, and the cat were all safe in a van across the street, watching from the neighbor's driveway. See, the order of protection could not protect her. It only fueled his rage. The police had their hands tied. She couldn't prove the forced relations, and she couldn't prove his threats. The cat could have simply have gotten out of the house. And though following her everywhere was a nuisance, it was not considered a crime at the time. He proceeded to enter her home, and upon discovering that she wasn't there, none of them were, only the decoys, he went into a full rage. Though he wanted to wait to burn her house down while she was in it, his anger got the best of him, and he lit the place on fire. The flames began to grow and spread rapidly. When he went to escape, Lenox stood behind him. "Where do you think you're going?" she asked. She towered over him. What a pathetic loser, she thought to herself. She had sealed all the doors and the windows, all the locks, as he frantically tried to escape. She stood and watched as he choked and began to beg for his life, thinking, this is how I'm going to meet my demise. He fell to his knees. "Oh no, I will not let you off that easy," Lenox said. Just before the house exploded into larger flames, Lenox pulled him out. He was convulsing in pain, now reliving all the terror that he inflicted on her and the other women before her. The police were there to take him into custody. He continued to convulse in pain until the day that he repented. He was later deemed unfit for trial, unable to aid in his own defense. Though he was sorry for the pain that he caused, he felt that he was just in his actions, for she had rejected him. He remained in the county mental hospital for years, until he was no longer a danger to himself or to others. It was a horrifying lesson learned. But fortunately, this tragedy was averted. She was able to rebuild her home and her life in peace. But no amount of therapy can make her forget what he did. For years, every time she heard a truck pull up behind her, she couldn't breathe. The fear consumed her body. She would often wake up in the middle of the night in terror. Lenox wanted to absorb her fears, but she refused the help. She decided it was best for her to channel her fears into strength. She began to volunteer and speak with young women, cautioning them of the signs that she herself had missed. She also worked with local lawmakers to put stricter laws in place to protect both men and women who fall victim to stalking, in order to prevent worse tragedies from occurring in the future. Today, there are better practices in place to help prevent these type of acts of violence. Though they are not foolproof, it is a step in creating a safer world for all of us. Fortunately, Even though this ending was fictitious, tragedy was averted. This young lady was fortunate to have had a very strong support system. Her family and friends were able to see warning signs, allowing them to intervene in time. Stalking is a serious crime. If someone is following you, is relentless, obsessively pursuing you against your wishes, do not take it lightly. Make sure you take the necessary precautions to ensure your safety. Stay alert. Make your friends, family, neighbors, co-workers aware of the situation. And when necessary, do not hesitate on getting the police involved. It may just be a temporary lack of judgment, as she had believed, because sometimes good people can do bad things. Regardless, stay aware of your situation and do not ignore the warning signs. End of story. Everyone was very fortunate because no one lost their life. She eventually forgave him, and that set her free. So that is going to conclude today's story. Now, this particular patron, she had wanted to share her story in hopes that her experience will help others be able to recognize and see any warning signs if they ever find themselves in a similar situation. So I hope that I was able to give her some justice, and even if it's in fantasy. And if you guys have any other story ideas that you want me to put together for you, any injustices that you may have suffered and you want me to write fantasy justice for, just email me and give me as much detail as possible, and I'll be more than happy to write a story for you. Now, you'll want to come back next week, where Lenox and the crew are going to be meeting up with Jaru to get a little bit more intel so that they can continue their fight against all the evils of the world in hopes to restore the balance of good and evil. So you want to come back for those adventures. I hope that you guys have a wonderful holiday. God bless all of you. God bless America. Happy birthday to our freedom nation, and thanks to our founding fathers for all that they sacrificed. Till next time.